Hey everybody, welcome to RunLeadGen Radio, your go-to podcast for SEO and digital marketing with your hosts Quinn
and Brian.
In today's episode, we want to talk we want to dive in a little deeper into backlinks. So we've talked a little bit about the value of backlinks being one of the major portions of off-page SEO, one of the three pillars of SEO, right? So you business owners that are saying, gosh, I want to grow my organic presence, my best leads, my highest paying clients are coming from organic search, people that are finding me in the Google search results. This is something, this is something that's going to help those leads grow, right? So off-page SEO, really important. And we want to talk specifically today about what are good backlinks, what are bad backlinks, and what can you do to get them or to fix them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that is really common in the SEO industry right now is you'll hear a lot of people saying that backlinks don't matter anymore. Lots of agencies that don't do backlink outreach or PR or any type of link building, and people that think that there's not as big of an impact from backlinks. And one of the things I would say to that is you need to look at any of the recent correlative studies with backlinks and rankings, or you need to find yourself in a market that's more competitive to see the impact that backlinks really do have. But we see a lot of businesses that get sucked in they get sucked in on offers that are too good to be true, which is something that's kind of turned into a repeating theme across our different episodes here, is that if it's too good to be true, it probably is, and there aren't any shortcuts for really establishing healthy organic growth. And so we wanted to go through and show everyone, here are some things to watch out for. Here are some really common pitfalls or some of those shortcuts that people try to take when it comes to building their backlink profile. We actually have someone that is a business owner that came to us that we went through and looked at their backlink profile and found some issues that they had. So we'll show you some of those specific backlinks, the disavow tool. Yeah, we want to talk about backlinks.
That's right. The last thing of context that I'll say is, and next week I think we'll dive into it a little bit more on our next podcast. But when you consider holistic marketing strategy, okay, again, you're trying to get yourself out there as a business. Your go-to market strategy. You want people to find you. You want your products and services to be available, and of course, that's the path for growth. As you consider that holistic strategy, backlink acquisition or digital PR, outreach, it goes by a lot of different names. The idea here is to be organic, right? You are going to be providing the world with something that it doesn't have, or something that it doesn't know that you do better than your competitors, or the authority, the expertise you bring to the table. So every piece of content, every little service or product that you offer the world, we want to expose the world to it so that they can essentially say, hey, look at these guys. They know what they're talking about. They're good at what they do. Let's link back to them, right? And that's a editorial vote. That's a thumbs up from other people across the internet saying, hey, these guys are legitimate. They're the real deal. So how do we facilitate that organic growth, but do so in a way that obviously is that's going to grow you purposefully? We're not leaving it up to chance, and strategically as marketers, right? So that's what we're talking about today as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to bring up a really quick point that isn't something that's usually talked about in marketing circles, because from a marketer's perspective, you're looking to have a strategy or something to capitalize on in order to get backlinks. But a really important tip is, if you have real world relationships for your business, so if you are a roofer and you have a supplier for roofing supplies or whatever those real world relationships are, that's a really great place to start, because you have contacts and it's relevant to your business to get those links from people that you work with in real life and kind of mirror what you have in the real world to help you establish your footprint and some of those organic backlinks that should exist.
Perfect. So let's dive into the very first do's and don'ts of backlink acquisition. So the first thing we want to talk about is a backlink acquisition strategy. So how do you get backlinks on a regular basis? How can you build that in, whether it's with an agency like us that you're working with or your own in-house team or yourself? How can you start working on building those backlinks effectively, efficiently, and consistently?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say probably the most common method that a lot of marketers do is outreach campaigns. So you'll see these requests from time to time if you're a website owner, and you might even receive some of these requests that might sound a little crazy. I know some marketers like to do kind of a three-way trade where a reciprocal link provides less value. So if they come to you and say, hey, you link to me and I'll link to you, doesn't give the same value as someone that's linking on their own and creates that editorial vote. So we'll see people doing outreach campaigns where they'll say, hey, you link to me on this site and I have this other website over here that's maybe more relevant and I'll link to you. But the bread and butter for link building at this point in time kind of comes into the digital PR and my brain does.
You're okay.
The digital PR and outreach, where you are putting together a really useful piece and doing a guest post or letting publishers or journalists know about a piece of research or useful information that you've put together and sending that to them in hopes that you can arrange a backlink.
Yeah. Ultimately, I mean, the people that do this really well, ourselves, in-house teams, these are people who have built relationships over the course of their many years and experience in the industry and are able to then, expose updates, services, authority type content to certain outlets to get that out to the world. That's what we're shooting for here, right? And then there's a myriad of ways to do that. A white hat version down to black hat version, and we've talked a little bit about those in past episodes. But let's talk briefly for a minute here about some big no-nos and what they look like.
Can we actually put a cut in here and pull up the backlink guidelines for linking schemes from Google and just run through those really quick?
Backlink.
So I think it's, if you just do Google link scheme guidelines, you should find it. So that spam policy is top one. So if we scroll down, there should be link schemes, link spam.
Okay, so let me back up. Or I guess this is still right where we were.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the bad stuff.
Yep.
So just use up to where I just said, and then we'll go from there, right before Brian says let's cut. So, all right, so the first thing we want to talk about is the actual documentation from Google about some stuff to avoid. And then we can show you examples of what this looks like. So let me pull this up. And we can cut out that too. Do you want to read through it or do you want me to?
Yeah, we can just go through it together if you want. If you want to start.
All right, so if you check out this document, we'll include the link in the description below. This is on the essentials, the spam policies of Google's documentation in the developers.google subdomain. And we've scrolled down here to the link spam. So Google says right here, right, buying or selling links for ranking purposes, including exchanging money for links, exchanging money or goods or services for links, and then, of course, sending someone a product in exchange for them writing about it and adding a link to it. So these are inherently, outrightly, explicitly no from Google.
Yeah, so and I'm going to skip back to something that it said in the beginning before we kind of go on too much further. Because I had mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, so many people on SEO Twitter and in the SEO world, people saying that backlinks don't matter anymore, I would kind of urge them to come and read this very first sentence in the guidelines for their spam policies, where it says Google uses links as a factor in determining the relevancy of a web page. And so that gives you an idea of how important links are for your SEO campaign. So sorry to skip around there, but so the next item you'll see there is excessive link exchanges. So this is kind of that reciprocal linking that I was talking about. Hey, you link to me, I'll link to you. Using automated programs or services is the next one. And this is a really common thing maybe 10 years ago. Sadly, we still see people doing it today, but using an automated program like Web Position Gold is one that's really common. There are a lot of them that will go and leave blog comments and take advantage of WordPress and other user-generated content platforms to go and try and embed links. Most of those are no follow at this point in time, so they don't really move the needle when it comes to SEO. But yeah, using an automated program, it sounds like a shortcut to me. And so, yeah, those are little to no value. The next one is really interesting, which is requiring a link as a part of terms of service, contract, or similar arrangement with a third party. And this is something that we see not too often, where there's a contractual obligation. So this is likely going to be with a marketing agency of some kind that's saying, yeah, in order to complete this contract, you're also going to be required to have a link back to us, something along those lines.
So yeah, and you business owners watching this, most of you that are watching this, you know, this may feel irrelevant to you. Why we bring this up is not only to assure you that we definitely know what's right and what's wrong, but we're giving you some ammunition in your pocket as you are either trying some of this on your own or as you're partnering with your own agencies or marketing help, that you need to be watching out for some of this. What does this look like, right? So that you can kind of raise a red flag and suggest that maybe you need to deviate from this path. Because ultimately, when a core algorithm like the helpful content update or otherwise, the link spam update, the many updates that come along, and then all of a sudden you fall off the face of the planet on Google, and you're wondering why. Likely holy cow. Likely it is, what am I trying to say? Processes. Likely it's processes and products from people like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can skim down through the rest of these. It's recommended that if you're doing any type of link building with a third party or yourself, that you're very familiar with these guidelines. Text advertisements or text links that don't block ranking credit. So if you purchase a link from a website, this could be a banner or text, or banner and text. And even if that isn't necessarily for the link value, you want to make sure that it has the rel equals sponsored attribute, which is going to signal to Google that, yes, we are following the rules here. Don't give me an algorithmic or manual penalty for buying links. And so that's a really important one. Same with the advertorials or native advertising, where payment is received for articles. This is something that is really common mistake among marketing agencies. They're out there and they're paying for posts to go up, but there are signals on the site that, yeah, you can buy a link here by having paid placement for an article. And if there's signals on the site, then Google's going to be able to determine that, and it's going to end up costing you more than just what it costs to place the article. Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about like how you can get into one of these pickles. I would say probably the most common that we see, especially because the fact is, like if you're working with a marketing agency or you hire an internal marketer, so many times they're just looking for the best, the quickest win, the lowest hanging fruit that they can just do. And so many of them jump over to Fiverr or they outsource overseas, and likely they're jumping into Fiverr or some similar type of scheme, and you're going to see things like this, like 900 links or quality links for $50.
Yeah, that is really quite the deal. If that was legitimate, that they had access to 900 different websites that were actually high quality, and even going and posting 900 articles would cost you way more than $50 just looking at the sheer volume. So that's something that's happening using an automated tool, link farms, syndicated links of some type across a bunch of websites. And one of the things that is going to be very common among all of these links is that they are relying on metrics from third-party SEO tools like domain authority or domain rating from Ahrefs. And these metrics have kind of opened up a loophole for some of these marketers to take advantage and end up giving you something of little to no value when all the metrics that you might have in front of you say that, hey, this is a good value. And so what that looks like is, because getting a high quality link has become so important and Google no longer gives out the page rank information like they used to, 15 or so years ago about a website, a lot of these SEO tools have came up with their own metrics to try and help people see at scale and at a glance the value of a particular website, in particular for building backlinks. And so because that has become so important, something like Moz domain authority, there are people that have gone out and found loopholes and ways to manipulate those. So you can have a domain authority 50 website that has 1,000 articles, but somehow isn't even listed in Google. And so that's what you're often going to see for a lot of these, is that they are PBNs or link farms and ways that people have kind of skirted around or tried to skirt around Google. And usually that doesn't last too long. But so they're essentially a scam, in my opinion. So.
Yeah. And you might be saying, well, how's anybody going to know, right? Maybe I wanted to try it. For $50, it might help, right? And if it doesn't, it doesn't. Let's talk about why that's not the case. So one of the tools that Brian's mentioning, and there's a handful of tools out there that can help you with this. Granted, Google obviously has their own way of identifying this as well. So when you say, we'll try it and nobody will know, certainly Google will know. And, if you've got somebody like us that comes into play, this is one of the first things that we're going to do is start to clean this up, because we are still seeing so much impact, positive impact, and we'll talk about how to clean them up and why to clean them up. But let's look at what this looks like. How does Google know, and how could we know if you did something like this? Like Brian mentioned at the beginning of our podcast, we've encountered a handful of clients and potential clients that have been participating in nefarious acts like this, and it's a quick catch for us, and we can see it really, really easily. And this is what it looks like.
Yeah. So one of the really common things that will happen from these, 900 DA50 links that we saw on the Fiverr deals there, is something that's called a social bookmark. And so this is something that these websites, I personally don't use any type of bookmarking sites. I have a bookmark bar in my browser if I want to bookmark something. But this is kind of a way that people have launched these sites to be able to collate links. And what's happened is they have been abused for link building. And so really, if you see anything related to backlinks that are bookmarks, more than likely you've got some automated links, and they're of little to no value, all the way up to the point where you could end up with a manual action or algorithmic penalty and have your site lose all its organic traffic, sometimes even go as far as being de-indexed from Google.
Yeah, so let's look at some of these social bookmarking, right? We've got vote bookmarking. And you can see that they've definitely been doing submissionsearch.com, submissionpoint.com, submissionlinks.com. I mean, we went through, and it's almost every link to this site has been likely purchased through one of these, Fiverr deals or somebody that's just not doing a good job.
Right. So for this website in particular, we talked to them a few months ago, and they had been working with someone doing their SEO, and they were getting backlinks. But when we looked to see how they're performing, they weren't anywhere. And so we dived in a little further.
Yeah, you're good.
So we dove in a little further, and easily to see within about 30 seconds that a lot of these links that they'd been getting were automated and no value. So one of the things that you can really look at is, does a site exist? Sorry.
I was scratching too. So.
One of the things that you can look at is, does this website have any value for an end user? Is there any themes across a lot of these domains? And you can always go as far as setting up and using a link audit tool. So SEMrush has a toxic backlink audit. There are a variety of those tools out there that can help you look and see at scale if you've got issues with your backlinks. There's a really easy way to check, though, is if you've got a link from a site that, regardless of its traffic, doesn't even rank in Google for anything or is de-indexed, it's probably not going to help.
Yeah, you guys, we'll talk a little bit about this next week with our kind of holistic marketing strategy. But consider, we've made the metaphor that SEO is much like growing a garden, whereas, paid ads or PPC is like a plumbing job, right? The plumber, you pay them for their parts, their services, they plug up the pipe and they're able to turn on the water and turn it off as needed. SEO is like a garden. So imagine somebody coming to you and saying, hey, look, I'll plant your garden tomorrow, and then the next day you'll have fruit and vegetables. You would definitely be, concerned with that because, what kind of food would you be eating? How sustainable is it? It doesn't matter how cheap it was. It just doesn't sit right. That is the concept. That's the mentality you should have with growing your business. That's not to say we as business owners, we're hungry. We want to grow as fast as we can. We want to do anything out there that we can to get more views, more sales. But the reality is if you participate in stuff like this, not only are you going to be dissatisfied with the result and have spent, even if it was cheaper, money on something that's not going to help you, but it can ultimately hurt you, like eating some genetically altered vegetable. Not a good idea.
Yeah, so this is something that's really common in the SEO industry right now as well, is that if you have bad backlinks or you find computer-generated spam of backlinks pointing to your site, that you don't need to worry about those because Google can tell the difference, and so it will just ignore those backlinks. And so the first thing I would say to those people are, number one, if you haven't seen an algorithmic or manual penalty, then you wouldn't know. But these backlinks can hurt you, and that's why they have the Google disavow tool. And this is also the utility that you need to use if for some reason you had to combat negative SEO, which is where a competitor or someone that's unscrupulous decides, hey, if I want to take that site that's ranking above me out, I can just go ahead and do some of these cheap backlinks from Fiverr in their name, or maybe even something that goes a little bit further like adult links or something like that. So the disavow tool is the tool from Google that is used to a few things. One, help you stop any backlinks that are hurting your profile. It's designed specifically for people that have links that violate their spam guidelines, and Google wants to see that you're aware that you've broken those rules and you've stopped those practices, and now you are cleaning them up. And so the disavow tool is a very important tool. It is an advanced tool, and it tells you right on there to be very careful with this tool. I actually worked on a campaign a few months ago where they had outsourced a link cleanup. And as I was manually going through their existing disavow file, saw hundreds of legitimate websites that were linking to them that were actually real world relationships that were linking back to them that for some reason had been decided to disavow. So something you really want to be careful with.
Yeah, and like Brian mentioned at the beginning of this episode is there's a lot of debate out there, and it seems odd to us that there would be, because being on the front lines of SEO and doing this work, we absolutely see correlation with, backlink acquisition, good backlink acquisition, and organic presence, and ultimately traffic and conversions. And alternatively, removing bad backlinks, we also see correlation, right? So anybody that's saying that this is no longer valuable, we definitely like to have that conversation, because likely, either you're in a less competitive space, you're getting bad backlinks, or a variety of other things. So the disavow tool still exists, while there has been comments about whether or not it's still useful. We certainly see that it is. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there, right?
Yeah, I have an open challenge to any of the people that are using that concept to go ahead and buy a few thousand of those links on Fiverr, maybe a few adult site links, and see what happens.
Awesome, you guys. So next week, we're talking a little bit about holistic marketing strategy. We definitely encourage you to like and subscribe to stay up on all the things SEO and digital marketing, right? This is your go-to podcast to help your business grow, whether you decide to do that yourself, hire that out, partner with somebody, or engage with us. Ultimately, we want you to grow your business. And so if that's something that's interesting to you, you found the right place. Go ahead and give us a shout out, comment on our video on the podcast or on our site, and let us know if you have anything else that we missed that you'd like to talk about, or if you think differently. We're so super, oh my gosh. We're glad to have you. We'll see you next time. Oh my gosh. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next time. This is RunLeadGen Radio. Oh no, I still did that wrong. We're glad to have you. This is RunLeadGen Radio. We'll see you next time. Did we have anything else we wanted to say?
That's good.